Welcome to your home on the stream, Blue Jay fans. Hope you enjoy the view from the On-Fec Circle, presented from JFtC and available on a live stream on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're just part of the family of programming that JFtC produces. There is, of course, the main podcast, the Jays from the Couch radio podcast, episode 274 in the books last night. That is hosted by our senior editor and founder, Sean Doyle. It's always a lot of fun. There's always great Blue Jays discussion, but you need to tune specifically for our fake Blue Jays news segment. And because a pennant race can be so stressful and so serious-minded, you have to have a little fun. We poke fun about, the Rays going to Montreal. We poke fun about a pin the tail on the Charlie Montoyo game given away as a promotion. We try to do a lot of different things. That's Mondays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, on our Twitter handle @JaysFromCouch. Plus, if you missed the live stream, it's available anywhere finer podcasts are available. And the other show, the jewel in the crown of shows, if you will, on the YouTube channel is Sunny Side of the Dome, and that's hosted by my friend and colleague, Karen Suter. If there's a bigger, more loyal Blue Jay fan in the world, I have not come across them, but there's also not many better at breaking down roster management, breaking down games, player performance, and give honest reviews of what's going on in Blue Jays land. So that's Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, hosted by Karen Suter. And welcome aboard. Enjoy the view from the On-Fec Circle. Even though the view includes having to stare at this face, it's the views we talk about that are most important. Before we get too far in, I want to give a shout out to my high school alma mater, Raritan High School in Hazlet, New Jersey. Without them, I wouldn't be here. Not only because of the training I got, in the broadcasting and journalism programs there, but Raritan's own Mark Lamangelo, the flaming star of the 1979 Toronto Blue Jays. That's what really put the Blue Jays on the map for me. Once I got a taste of what being a Blue Jay fan is all about in the city and, the fan base, I never went back to the Red Sox, and you figured growing up in New Jersey, I'd be a Yankee fan or a Met fan or even a Phillies fan because I could get the games where I lived on TV and radio. But once I started attending games and following the Jays more closely, I've never turned back. So you can be either grateful to Raritan High School's broadcast department or you can curse them. No bomb threats, though. Okay, it's not their fault that I am who I am. But anyway, we're heading into the final stretch, the final week of the regular season. And much to my surprise, and a delightful surprise, the Blue Jays are right in the thick of the wild card spot. I've been saying all season they weren't going to pull it off. They fell too far behind the curve, if you will, early in the season with their bullpen woes, with the lack of movement to solidify the pitching staff, both in the offseason and in the regular season when struggles and injuries occurred. But they've put it all together. There was some interesting and great moves made in and around the trade deadline, and we're right there. This particular show, now usually I eschew talking about analytics and number crunching and and all of those type of things, but I think with a week to go, it was really important to break down wild card specific analytics and share them with you here on the On-Fec Circle. Ordinarily, I would have all kind of interesting graphs and graphics. It was just way too convoluted and involved for me to force that upon Sean Doyle, who's behind the scenes producing the On Feck Circle. So I just broke it down into the three simple, basic things. And hopefully you can see that really well. The analytics breakdown is 6 wins, no losses. You got 6 games left. You got to win all 6. Runs scored have to be higher than runs allowed. And the Jays are 21-9 at the Rogers Center. And hopefully you enjoyed that high-tech graphic that I just shared with you. You don't need analytics and everything to break down what it's come down to here in this final week. That's great talk for the offseason. It's great information to look at if a player's doing well in the minors. If you're wondering perhaps who they could obtain in a trade and who they could or couldn't trade away in any kind of a transaction. But it boils down to just simple basics. The Jays have 6 games left, 3 against the Yankees starting tonight, 3 against the hapless Baltimore Orioles over the weekend. All of the games at home. If you go 6-0, they're in the playoffs. Because I really don't think any of the other teams are going to be able to go 6-0. Is that a lot of pressure? I'm not sure that the players feel that pressure, but it has boiled down to that. They have to win all 6 games. They could go 5-1 and perhaps face a 163rd game to qualify as one of the wild cards to then go to the 1-game wild card. That is entirely possible. But really, if you go 6-0, you're punching your own ticket to the playoffs. And that's really what the Blue Jays need to do. If they can sweep the Yankees, no matter how hard Major League Baseball and MLB Network and U.S. media and all the advertisers that buy ads for the playoff games want and are demanding that the Yankees make the playoffs, I still don't, even with the advantage they have going into the series, think the Yankees are going to survive this week and be one of the wild card teams. They've got to play the Jays, and then they have to play the Rays. And if you think the Rays are going to roll over to the Yankees just because they've already clinched their playoff spot in the division, you are sadly mistaken. They need the Yankees out of the playoffs as well. So, 6 wins, no losses. Is it possible? I think the Jays have proven they can handle this Yankee lineup, and they can successfully put runs on the board with the Yankees pitching staff. Now, we talked a little bit on the Jason the Couch radio podcast last night, Karen, Sean, and I, about who would you want to see the Jays play in the wild card team. And really, the Yankees are a paper tiger. They're a house of cards. There's no real foundation. Sure, there's aces like Cole, and there's kings and queens and jacks and other valuable high face cards, Stanton and Judge. And as long as he doesn't have to be behind the plate, Gary Sanchez. I mean, there's a lot of offensive weapons on that club. And they do take advantage of that short right field porch there. But the Blue Jays can do the same thing. It's not out of the realm of possibility for the Jays to sweep the Yankees. And once that is done, the bloodletting in Yankee land, is almost complete. Because I don't even see the Yankees winning 2 of 3 games against the Rays. So this series is paramount for the Yankees as it is for the Blue Jays. And when you look at what the Jays need to do to go 6-0, they need to score more runs than their pitching staff gives up. And the pitching staff has really been a stabilizing force over the last 6 weeks. I mean, Ryu has had struggles. Pitchers are going to have struggles. Even Robbie Ray had a bad game. The bottom line is the offense has to stay consistent. They have to do what they did for the first 5 months of the season, aggressive at bats, but selective at bats. Use the whole field. Don't let, okay, I'm up, and get tense. I have to drive in that run. I have to hit a bullet in the gap. Just do what they've been doing, score more runs than they've allowed. And their big advantage is they are 21-9 since returning to the Rogers Center, which is probably as big an acquisition as any team was able to make before the trade deadline. They got Rogers Center back. They got the home fans back. And coincidentally, they're doubling the capacity. It won't be a sellout, a true sellout, but all 30,000 tickets will go. And I think that's going to be the case for all of the games in the Orioles series as well. That is a tremendous advantage. That's that clutch pinch hitter you have on the bench. That's that 7th, 8th, 9th inning relief pitcher who's going to come in and strike out the side. Doubling that crowd size in that stadium, it's going to sound like there's 90,000 there, let alone 30,000 being there. So a lot of things are in place for the Blue Jays to secure a wild card spot. Worst case scenario, they can qualify for a play-in game. And I know everybody's talking, well, it could be a 5-way tie, and that's not going to happen. The A's are valiantly, in the race. I think the Mariners are going to break their spirit. The Mariners scare me as a Jays fan because they're playing with house money at this point. They're walking away winners, irregardless of whether they make the playoffs or not. If they make the playoffs or a play-in game, do they have a Garrett Cole or a Robbie Ray or a Chris Sale? No, they do not. But they've got some very good young pitchers and some very clutch young hitters. I know about run differential. I said before, runs scored higher than runs allowed. That only matters from this point going forward. It doesn't matter what happened with blowouts in May and June or whatever it is. From this point on, the Mariners, if they score more runs than they allow, they're going to be a problem for everybody. And the Red Sox, really, of all the teams, they control their own destiny because they play two of the worst teams in Major League Baseball over the next 6 games. They don't have to sweep. If they win both series, if they take 2 from the Nationals and they take 2 from the Orioles, their ticket's punched as well. At the very least, so we talked about the Blue Jays earlier, they're involved in a play-in game for a wild card spot for another 1 game wild card before they go off and see who plays the Rays. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Last week, I tried to joke around and talk people off the ledge. I really think that there's a lot of Blue Jay fans that have forgotten what it's like to be in a pennant race. I mean, 2015 is not that far away, really. But it seems decades away with what happened in 17, 18, and 19. Now, it was a deliberate teardown, restock the farm system, get yourself positioned to be a contender again, but it seems a long way away. And then you have to remember, too, in 2015, when they, made the playoffs, when they won the East, at that time, they had the longest drought as far as times between playoff appearances in all 4 major league sports. And I'll give you 5 if you want to include the Canadian Football League. Mariners hold that distinction now, but even the Bills, Buffalo Bills in the NFL, they hadn't gone as long as the Blue Jays did. So let yourself enjoy it. I mean, and I'm saying this from personal experience. I ruined this season for myself as a fan, not as someone that talks about the Blue Jays and writes about the Blue Jays for jaysfromthecouch.com. I ruined it for myself because I was so upset with the Wile E. Coyote super genius approach to this season that Ross Atkins was trying to implement. You know, with proposed Atkins innings diets and all those kind of deals, turning a blind eye when it was obvious they did not have the pitching depth that they bragged about all through the offseason and through spring training. I ruined it for myself. And as pleasantly surprised as I am that the Jays are wild card contenders now, I was just heartsick over the fact that I just couldn't believe the Jays were going to pull it off, that they were going to climb out of the hole they dug for themselves. And some of that hole was deepened because of injuries, that's for sure. But I ruined it for myself. So as exciting as this stretch has been, I have found I've had to scramble for ways to support my belief that they're still not going to make the playoffs. And I kept referring back to 87 and the final week of the season collapse that they experienced, including getting swept by the Tigers. So the Tigers won the AL East. That feeling, that heaviness is lifted. I don't have that heaviness anymore. So now I only really have left myself a week to enjoy what's been a pretty tremendous season. Before we get into the Blue Jay Ways segment this week, I want to talk about something else involving the playoffs. And I want to throw out 3 players that are improbable but possible playoff heroes. I'm going to start with Cavan Biggio. And when you hear the name Cavan Biggio, you think, oh, he's a core player. He has been hurt the majority of the year. And when they tried to accommodate Marcus Semien and force Cavan Biggio to play third base on an everyday basis, that wasn't very pretty. I mean, I'm sure some of that neck injury was more like a whiplash effect from having to watch balls fly by him at third base because of poor positioning, overcompensating for his weaker throwing arm than, let's say, an Espinal or Breivik Valera have. He's been on a rehab assignment, and I would be shocked if he is not activated at some point before the playoffs start, and that he plays, whether it be as a bench player or whether he takes over third base again somehow or just rotates around. It becomes that like Tony Phillips super utility guy that plays all over the place in a playoff game and then a playoff series. I think he has a real shot. He's been hitting the ball. He's been consistent. I think he's rediscovered his plate discipline and his patience, which is what makes him so dangerous. He could draw that walk. And a guy very similar to him is Corey Dickerson. It's obvious that George Springer cannot play in the field every day, just to avoid a season-ending injury. And it seems like he's had flirtations with 2 or 3 possible season-ending injuries. Corey Dickerson, I keep using the word clutch, mainly to drive people that think there's no such thing as clutch hitters crazy. You know, it's like garlic and a stake through a heart to vampires. If you use the word clutch, it drives analytics people just nuts. It can't be proven, and there's no way to do that. It doesn't have to. You know how it's proven? It's proven by delivering in key situations, not every game, not every at bat, but at key times. Some players just have that knack to be able to come up in that big moment. And Corey Dickerson has proven that throughout his career, even playing for teams that weren't all that great in Colorado. But when he was here in Pittsburgh, it was unbelievable. It was uncanny how he seemed to either draw a walk, even sacrifice flies, hitting it the opposite field, sacrifice flies. He just has a knack, and he's not afraid. He's an old style hitter. He's not afraid to choke up on the bat if need be. So he has more bat control, and he has enough pop that he can hit a ball opposite field or pull a ball. He has to keep opposing defenses honest, especially as far as shifts are concerned and outfield positioning. Corey Dickerson has a chance on a national stage now to show just how good a player he is at crunch time. So he's the second guy. And I wanted to pick a pitcher, but in prep for the show, I know it's a surprise. I actually prep for this show, as you can tell by the high-tech graphics I showed earlier on my single piece of paper. I think the staff as a whole has to continue to gel and work well together. Again, on the podcast last night, if you haven't heard it yet, please do go to Stitcher, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Listen to the playback. Go to our YouTube channel. And we talked about Hyun-Jin Ryu and whether or not he should even be on the playoff roster. He's a guy that, even if he doesn't pitch, can affect the outcome of a game, because a manager has to account for the fact that he would be available, whether it be for one batter, whether it be, God forbid, the Jays get behind early in a game and the starter just doesn't have it. And that happens in the playoffs to the best of pitchers. That happens in the playoffs. Ryu can be that bridge so that you're not burning through the bullpen in one game. He can go 3, 4, even 5 innings if he's on. So I shied away from the pitching staff. Danny Jansen is my third improbable playoff hero. Ideally, they get past the wild card and they play more than just one game, so that national TV audiences, though I'm sure they're going to somehow find a way to not have the Blue Jays game in prime time. They'll be playing at 4 a.m. on the East Coast, so they can accommodate possible West Coast viewers that'll tune in at 1 a.m. after the Tonight Show or whatever. Danny Jansen is going to show what a terrific defensive catcher he is. When we were doing game recaps on JaysFromTheCouch.com this year, I purposely listened to the out-of-town broadcast because I wanted to see, what are these guys saying about the Blue Jays? And to a broadcast team, to a broadcast, whenever Danny Jansen was in the plate, they raved about him, how he was able to keep pitchers calm in tough situations, how he is just unbelievable at blocking balls in the dirt. So pitchers don't have to be afraid to get a hitter to chase, a two-seamer in the dirt, a breaking pitch in the dirt. Danny Jansen is just a terrific defensive catcher. Screw metrics. He's a terrific defensive catcher. I want to throw to him. He's like Mike Zunino of the Rays. And like Zunino, Danny Jansen has some pop. And he's shown that throughout his Blue Jays career. And I flash back, I want to say it was 1972 or 73, and Gene Tennis of the Oakland A's. And that was that A's team that won 3 consecutive years. He had a storybook and really just reverted back to being Gene Tennis, part-time catcher, part-time first baseman. But Danny Jansen, I just have a feeling, an inkling, way down in my cockles, or maybe my subcockle area. I'm not sure exactly, I haven't located it yet. Danny Jansen is going to do something special in this postseason, and not just as a pitch framer, blocking balls behind the plate, and being a field general for his pitching staff. I just have a feeling this is Danny Jansen's year. So those are the 3 guys that I think, if the Blue Jays get past either a playoff play-in game or a 1-game wild card, you get into a series, those are 3 guys that I think you need to keep an eye on, and that potentially could be true heroes, true game changers for the Jays, outside of the usual stars, Vladimir Guerrero and Bo Bichette and Marcus Semien and George Springer. There's all the obvious guys you can think of. I think those 3 guys are going to etch their stones in the tablets, the 10 commandments of being a Blue Jays fan. You're going to have those 3 names etched in stone. Time now for Blue Jays Way. And I've been focusing on playoff seasons. Last week, I ranked the 8 previous Blue Jays playoff teams in order of the one that I found least enjoyable to watch up to my favorite, which was 1985. 92, the first World Championship was 2. But I want to talk about 2 things that are interesting from Blue Jays history. Kind of go back to what we were doing earlier in the season with the Blue Jays Way segment. And on this day in 1978, Ron Guidry beat the Blue Jays 3-1, striking out 9 to set the Yankees' single-season record of 243 for strikeouts in a season. Now, why is this significant? I'm not jinxing them. I'm not trying to jinx the Jays as they're playing the Yankees in the series. But if it wasn't for the original feckless wonder, Peter Bavasi, the first GM of the Blue Jays, stepping in, Guidry might have been a Blue Jay for his entire career. Pat Gillick, before he was totally in charge, had negotiated a trade because Peter Bavasi, I'm not quite sure what he was doing. He's sort of like a cross between Ross Atkins, where you never quite know what he's up to, if he's really doing anything, and Gord Ash, who you prayed wasn't doing anything because when he did, it was never good. Gillick negotiated a trade of an aging Bill Singer, the old Dodgers pitcher that was part of the expansion team in 77, to the Yankees, who they wanted Singer for down the stretch for their World Championship push. And Ron Guidry would have been the return. Can you imagine through the 80s, top of the rotation of Ron Guidry and Dave Stieb? That'd have been mind-blowing. But of course, Bavasi said, oh, no. We can't have that. So it's just something to, if you need to distract yourself and get mad about something, if should the Jays have a tough game in this 6-game stretch, think about that. Curse the name of Peter Bavasi. And something I'm going to leave with, this happened this week. On the 25th of September, 2003, Carlos Delgado. Loved me some Carlos Delgado. Smacked 4 home runs and drove in 6 as the Jays beat the then Devil Rays 10-8. Delgado led off the 4th, 6th, and 8th innings with solo shots. He finished the year with 45 home runs, a major league leading 145 RBIs, and hit .303. That sound familiar, Blue Jay fans? Is there a current Blue Jay that's kind of putting up those kind of numbers? Vladdy Guerrero, you're correct. And did Delgado win the American League MVP? He did not. You finished second to a player on a last place team in the AL West, the Texas Rangers. He lost out to Alex Gonzalez. Because Alex Gonzalez was doing things no infielder had ever done, people were saying. It's a historic season for Alex Rodriguez. That also sound familiar, Blue Jay fans? Let's hope that this batch of sports writers is smarter than that. Well, for better or worse, I'm out of time. I'm the Feckless Wonder, Steve Feck. Thanks for tuning in to the On Feck Circle. We're here every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel. You can also pick it up on its Facebook page and its Twitter handle at Jays from Couch. Don't forget, coming up on Thursday is Karen Suter's Sunny Side of the Dome on the YouTube channel. And every Monday, this coming Monday included, Jays from the Couch radio podcast with our terrific new fake news segment. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk at you next week.